Right, this end credit scene of Shigaraki inheriting like all the power. This opens a lot of dangerous doors.
Weakened considerably.
Right, I can give you the power.
You only have to say the word.
And I can bring it to you.
That power.
Right. So full disclosure, I just read chapters 218 through 220 of the manga for some backstory, and it was surprising to see them in this sort of dire state, basically penniless and confused, and starting to fight again. And then yeah, Kurogiri talks about this power, and then he gets himself caught. I don't know what it all means yet. About 2 months ago, a certain day in October. And yeah, they battled this guy who wiped the floor with them.
I searched so long. Now I found.
Does he just live there? He just lives in the earth? Radio Titan obviously has a lot of power. I'm wondering, half expecting, Shigaraki to get his destructive power. The timeline of events is a little bit confusing. Oh, I know who this guy is now, because of the manga. He is the leader of the company that we saw hinted at briefly that makes support items. And I believe the son of Destro, the guy who wrote that book, the Liberation Army book. And we've seen his gauntlet on Soda Man, and the reason it destructed was because it was meant to self-destruct.
I'm not impressed.
Spoke too soon. Only Shigaraki lands on his feet. This guy's a true believer, a true fan.
I take it you've met Gigantomachia. He's all for
Yeah, a
one
giant titan who's emotionally unstable. What could possibly go wrong?
All for one knew defeat was inevitable, so he hid Gigantomachia from view.
Gigantomachia. That's a mouthful.
Machia. Machia.
He's got him under control. Some kind of trigger word? Safe word? What is going on?
What the heck? This is the same quirk All for One used
Right,
to Camino.
right, right.
Why?
Who's doing it? Gigantomachia doing this?
No.
No
They
factory.
don't look like ones I've seen before.
Darby, I'm impressed you can tell the difference. I knew you had a keen pair of eyes.
Yeah, Dobby's got a discerning eye, all right. Seems like he's got his own agenda, though I'm not exactly sure what that is. I can imagine there being a rift later between him and Shigaraki.
I notice you've let your hair grow out. It suits you. Your father and the others, are they doing well?
Yeah, Dad's doing just fine. He lets me wear his hand on my face sometimes.
I brought you here today because of an agreement I made out of my deference to our former boss. My life.
Just how many
my
factions are there
my
that still support
expertise.
All for
And
One?
of course, my little ones here are dedicated to
Little
the great
ones.
All for One.
My babies.
Because so far I'm unimpressed. A 20-year-old reject hanging around with the dregs of society.
Shigaraki just gets this at every turn. He just never measures up in the eyes of others.
When I put these on my body, there's an uncontrollable rage that spills over. Ever since that day, I've been thinking about what happened.
Flashback time? There we go.
You ran and ran, looking for someone to help.
This music always gets me. Yep, a little tenderness for a lost child.
Who turned the world so upside down that a child must suffer as you have. But not anymore, for I am here.
I am here.
What are you going to teach me about?
Doctor,
You know, how to
Yes, sir.
destroy the world and aid in the apocalypse.
and you murdered your loved ones simply by putting your hands on them.
Oh no, not the corgi. Also other family members too, that's sad.
It all came
But
rushing
the
back.
corgi though... I love all the parallels here. You know, I love the I am here thing inspiring Shigaraki. In the way All Might's I am here inspired so many of the heroes. Just timing, you know, where they were, who found them in their lowest states. And he makes a really good pitch, and one that I think is very effective and is also, weird to say, commonly used in public. It's like, look at the evils in the world. Look at this flaw. Look at this injustice. Don't you understand that it's the whole system that's at fault for this? Isn't it obvious that the fact that this can happen means that the whole system is evil? And therefore, don't you see that it is not only fine, but our duty to bring the whole thing down? You know what I mean? You can push anger and outrage in that way very easily to the point where people are willing to do some pretty drastic things and fall in line with things they might otherwise not have fallen in line with because of their good nature, you know, because of their kind hearts. Those things can be pulled and twisted into things that are less kind. And before you know it, even the best of people are wishing for the worst things. And forget about it for someone like Shigaraki, who is literally just a lost child with no one there for him in his most dire state and no one reaching out a hand to him. He's going to go this way no matter what.
I will help you give purpose to that frustration.
Oof, that's a solid pitch too. Finding
When
purpose.
I put them on, it's so
Making it
strange.
mean something.
Though it still makes me feel sick to my stomach. Wearing them washes calmness over me.
I got questions that this raises, a bunch of them. For one, even though I don't think this is the case, it's possible that this is not true, or that it's been pushed, like the extent to which this is true has been pushed to suit All For One's needs and the way he wants to move Shigaraki. But assuming this backstory is true, and then that's a big part of his character, I wonder if that doesn't create a path to redemption, because there's obviously conflict in his heart, guilt in his heart about what he's done. And All For One is really a genius. Like, this relationship is so cleverly conceived because it feels so natural. Like, of course Shigaraki as a boy would go there. Like, here's this devastating thing. Here's this tragedy that you caused, that you can't understand, that sends you spiraling into a world of hell. Let me give you a way that this needed to happen. Let me give you a way to reconcile this. Let me give you a way to redeem yourself through joining me. Like, what else does Shigaraki have to grab onto as he's free falling? But as time goes on and he reflects on that, are there not questions that arise for him? Like, what's the connection? What's the connection between this trauma I feel in my heart and the things I'm being asked to do? So is it the hands of his entire family?
On those flashes and fragments, and yet there's a heaviness in my heart, like a lump of lead, never moving.
Right.
Feeling the rage that propels me, but never brings relief.
Right.
That lead will be with me all my life.
Or will it? You know who might be able to lift lead? Deku.
So why not lend me a hand? I'll show
Get
you
it?
the halls of heaven and the
Don't you have
depths
enough
of
hands?
hell.
Okay. That was a solid pitch, though, for the doctor.
Tomura, those ideas of yours seem a little bit deranged if you ask me.
Oh, damn, even the crew.
There's always room for my comrades' wishes. Live how you want to.
Well, she swallowed that right away.
If you can make Gigantomachia submit to you, then everything I have will be yours to use as you see fit. If you want what I offer, you'll have to seize it for yourself.
Fine.
I mean, they got the tools at their disposal to do this.
I have a good potential ally in mind. I'm gonna focus my energies there. Do you object?
No. I look forward to meeting them.
He gets a lot of respect in the group and a lot of freedom, which is just how Dabi likes it, probably.
Now, are you ready to submit to your future king?
My Villain Academia, excuse me. And then back to the present. Or near the present. They've been fighting him for 2 months?
But even as he is pushed to the brink of death, Shigaraki's still smiling. As far as the rest of us go, he doesn't seem to notice when we withdraw from the action. It's like he's blind to everything except his primary target.
Yeah, he's awake. He's found something he really needs, really feels connected to.
Toga decided to spend what little money she got on a new duffel coat.
It looks great, though.
You only joined the League because you were obsessed with Stain. His influence has all but disappeared at this point, though. So why are you still here?
Spinner's got some reservations.
I love Mr. Staney, and I love Izuku, and I love Ochako too.
She's got a lot of love in her heart.
I'll bring that overgrown gorilla to his knees, sooner or later.
Yeah, this is the attitude of someone who's going to succeed.
It's like a kid chasing after a dream.
Yeah.
It's Girin.
What kind of ringtone is that?
Following yesterday's events, another finger has been
A
found.
finger?
Earlier, a severed finger was found near the home of the Shie Hasaikai boss. Then at Hosu City Terminal, on the Metropolitan Expressway, and at Ground Zero in Camino Ward, all within the last 3 days.
These are all significant places for the League of Villains. Someone's sending a message. There he is. Re-Destro.
All you has-beens trying to make a comeback.
Our objective is to liberate all metahumans, to demolish the existing framework and rebuild a world where people can be themselves.
Right. I'm not really clear on why this makes them enemies with the League of Villains. I guess the fact that the League of Villains approach seems to be just destroy everything, and that's, the objective. Whereas the Meta Liberation Army seem to have a more clearly defined goal, which is to sort of bring down the existing establishment, to bring down the structure, and this very, very rigid system of power control, quirk control. Maybe the fact that they're villains, there are people who create chaos with their quirks, gives power and allows for extra public support to the establishment, since the danger can obviously be used as a way to justify the existence of said structure.
Interesting. I don't see any reason why we should oppose that.
Right.
Is he trying to exploit our name like the Yakuza?
Give us the broker and we'll get back to you soon.
They just keep having to deal with these different squads.
We Liberation Warriors have worked hard, preparing for years to enact the coming
Feel
events.
good Inc.
Endured for generations, biding our time.
Hearts and Mind Party.
And we are lying in wait, ever ready to take action.
This guy must be bluffing.
How's the weather there deep in those mountains?
That solves nothing.
The war's begun to liberate metahumans from all tyranny. Will you stand against us and be destroyed, or do nothing and be captured by the hero?
He's making that classic villain mistake of talking too much.
Within the hour?
Feel good Inc. You know, it would be really clutch is if you're able to beat this Titan right now and get the power.
How long do we have until the big baby wakes up?
If left undisturbed, he should wake up in 2 hours and 35 minutes, give or take.
Perfect.
Right, that's the approach.
What if they really have 110,000 people? We'll be dead!
We're bringing
The giant's not invincible.
a friend.
Battling those revolutionaries will wear that meathead down.
2 birds with 1 stone.
And they won't even know what hit him.
Not losing a step. Not at all face. Speaking of like having a vision and knowing what he wants. So very interesting episode. None of the heroes at all. Just Shigaraki and crew. Just the League of Villains. And once again, another villain league taking on the League of Villains. Which makes a lot of sense. You know, it's hard to evaluate the actual danger of what's lurking out there. Speaking of bringing down a whole system, one thing I think is commonly overlooked is all the dangers that thing is preventing. You know, it's like we don't see those dangers because of something very specific in place, and so we conclude that those dangers are gone. But then as soon as you remove the thing keeping those things at bay, they all reemerge. That's one of the things that makes it very, very difficult to evaluate the success or failure of any given system. I just noticed that the preview screen is different. It says My Villain Academia for real. In this society, suddenly the tides have shifted where villains have been emboldened by people like Stain. And yeah, it's easy to point out the flaws of this hero society and all the ways it fails people, and those are valid. But what you see suddenly emerging is that all these people come out of the woodwork with their varying agendas. So it actually becomes crowded for villains, which means it was always there, right? It means it was always clamoring to get out. It just was kept at bay by the infrastructure that was in place, maybe largely by All Might. But that's another thing. Good times sort of lead to a forgetting, you know, a forgetting of the natural dangers that are just inherent in life and society. And it causes a relaxation of values that were once intuitive because people had experienced the dangers, you know, they experienced the darkness. People live in the light too long, they forget about the darkness and they start to take for granted the fact that it's not there. And it becomes tempting to sort of remove some of the existing structures and to be a little bit too utopian in thinking. Like, if only we could do this and have everything. You know, we forget that things are in place for a reason and there are certain reasons why we don't have certain things. And being safe and having room to breathe is a really wonderful thing, though perhaps the negative of it is like excess. You know, people tend to lose sight of what's truly important and can chase things like fame and fortune and other frivolous things because they just have so much extra resources with which to pursue creature comforts, and that of course also invites darkness and creates moral decay, etc. So there's like this cyclical nature to things, but the truth is it's always there. And it's just great to me that the League of Villains is the one shouldering that burden somewhat. You know, the villains are shouldering that as much as the heroes are. But Shigaraki's very focused, he seems capable, he's dealt with arguably worse before, so it'll be very, very exciting to see where this conflict goes. And on the last note, I just went back and watched the intro and realized I totally missed this. My Villain Academia.